8:55.
8:54.
8:56 now.
We'll go to like 9:15. That makes sense? Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, we're on Nunam Beis 50b.
Mhm.
Okay, continuing in the Gemara. The Gemara says, Mazutra, Rav Ashi, Krocha Rifti Bahadi Adodi. The first word of the line is et. Amemo Mazutra Rav Ashi. Okay, we got someone on already. They wrap bread together. Bread together. They mean they had they had three people. Good morning, Avram. Good morning, Shmuel. Good morning. They wrapped zimun together. Now it could be that they specifically ate with three people because they wanted to ensure that they should have a zimun. So some people, I want to have three people with me so I can have the mitzvah of zimun. Just like we found in the Gemara earlier, if two people are eating, it's a mitzvah to invite someone to join in, so you could do that mitzvah. So they had three people eating bread together. Aisula kamayu tamre rimoni. First word of the line is virimoni. Steve, you got it? Virimoni. They brought dates and pomegranates. And dates and pomegranates in front of them. Okay, so they got some dates. They got some pomegranates. So what did they do? So one of the rabbis went ahead and Mazutra took took a portion of food. He took tapla kamei Rav Ashi tistana, and he threw in front of Rav Ashi a nice portion of this fruit. He threw it. He threw the fruit. Now, what type of fruit? And he threw it. So the Gemara says, now Rashi learns it was a portion of cooked meat. Rashi learns, but others learn it was just a portion of the fruit. He threw a nice portion of fruit because the Gemara says they brought fruit and then he threw. So let's say we'll learn with the opinion he threw a portion of the fruit. Okay. Ama lay. So if Ashi says to Mazutra, Lo savalama lahodetanya, you don't. By the way, you sent that to the group, right? Thank you very much. You don't hold of what we learned in the Braita. What we learned in the Braita says Ein zorkin et ha'ochlin. You're not allowed to throw food. So how could you throw? So one rabbi is saying to the other rabbi, and look how he refers to the other rabbi. Doesn't the mar, the master, don't you hold of the Braita? We have a Braita. The Braita says you don't throw food. No, sometimes you say you could throw a baseball. You don't throw food. Don't throw food. So he says, so he responds, that law that you don't throw food, ha'i bepatanya. That's a law by bread. You don't throw bread. But other foods, you want to throw the pomegranate, you can throw the pomegranate. If it's going to fall, the pomegranate is not going to get ruined, you can throw it. Vatanya, or we know how to catch very well, so we're not afraid it's going to fall down, no problem. But Vatanya, what we learned in the Braita, shame. By the way, this, you ever see at a wedding, people juggle apples. They throw up apples and they say a bracha b'eit. They have a little bit of the apple. When they throw up the apple, they bite an apple. They catch the apple. They bite the apple. So they're allowed to do that, provided that if the apple falls, they would just wash it off and it's not ruined. But you can't juggle food that if it drops, it's going to get ruined. So he says this, the halacha that says you can't throw food is talking about bread. And this is not bread, it's a pomegranate, it's a date, you can throw it. So the Gemara, what he says, what do you mean? Vatanya. We learned in the Braita says, and one Yosef, it looked like Yosef joined, but then I think I don't see him on. The Braita says, we learned in the Braita, Kishem shein zorken at the pot. The same way you're not allowed to throw bread, the Braita says you're also not allowed to throw kach. You can't throw other foods. So Yosef is up. You can't throw other foods. Kach ein zoken at cholim. So since the law is not limited to bread, the Braita says, we have another Braita that says, come on, Aaron. Another Braita that says you can't throw other foods as well. It's not just a special law about bread, other foods as well. So the Gemara says, he says like this. What do you mean? Amalei, but Tanya, we had a different Braita that says, Afal pisha in zokin atapat. Even though you can't throw bread, of zokin sha'ochlin, you could throw other food. So we have contradictory Braitas. One Braita makes a distinction between bread and other foods. You cannot throw bread, you can throw other foods. And one Braita says you can't throw any food. The same way you can't throw any bread, you can't throw other foods. And so the Gemara explains, how do we explain the contradiction? Lo kasha. Elo lo kasha. Had midi de mimis, had midi de lo mimis. The Braita that says you can't throw other foods is talking about if the food would get ruined if it falls. That's where all foods are forbidden. Let's say blueberries, if it falls or something like that it will get squashed. Anything that will get squashed, if it falls, that you can't throw. But when is there a distinction between bread and other foods? Is when the item will not get ruined if it falls. So bread, even if it won't get ruined, you shouldn't throw. But other foods, if it won't get ruined, you want to throw peanuts, you can throw peanuts, no problem. You can throw peanuts to your friend, catch the peanuts. You want to have a game, catch the peanuts, you can have a game, catch the peanuts. But even if it falls, it's not, nothing's bad's gonna happen. Now, the Gemara.
So, Rabbi, on Shabbat, when we give the bread, we are not allowed to give it by hand. We have to kind of throw it in front of the person in a way, no?
You said the word throw in front of the person. You're allowed to hand it in front of the person. Why do you need to throw it in front of the person? What makes you need to throw it? Why can't we put it down in front of the person?
Because if the person is like the other side of the table,
Okay, but it still might not be respectful. The Gemara says we don't throw bread. Again, I can't tell you if you have a custom, you have to look up the custom, if you have such a custom, if it's a proper custom or not. But you hand the bread, you hand it to your guy next to you, and he'll pass it to the next guy, right?
Okay.
That's what I would recommend, unless you verify that any custom that you have in your family to throw bread is based on, we had somebody here in the shul yesterday that he said that there's a certain rabbi that said that it's a minhag shtut. The certain rabbi that wrote that said that it's inappropriate, it's wrong to throw the bread on Shabbat. A certain rabbi came out to say it was wrong, but I'm not. The fact that one rabbi says it's wrong doesn't mean that it's universally accepted that it's wrong. I'm saying a lot of times when a lot of people do something, a lot of Jewish people do something, it's not easy to say that it's a minhag shtut. It's not so fast that you can say that it's not based on something. He was telling me yesterday in the Moroccan community. I think Mr. Haber is going to appreciate this a lot. As you know, Mr. Haber was very involved with the mikveh, in the first Sephardi mikveh that was built in the United States. Mr. Haber told us a story about him and Mr. Safra. Edmund Safra was fasting that day, correct, Mr. Haber? Because it was the yahrzeit of one of Mr. Safra's parents. Wow. His father's yahrzeit. But in Morocco, the day that the lady goes to the mikveh before she gets married, they make a whole celebration. There's a Moroccan minhag, and somebody came out to say that it's a bad minhag. Someone said it's not modest that you celebrate the day that the lady's going to the mikveh, because the law says in general you do not. In general, when a lady goes to the mikveh, it's something that's a private thing. It's not public. It's supposed to be tzniut, modesty. It's not public knowledge. Person's not supposed to, publicize when his wife's going to the mikveh. So therefore, there's an opinion that says that it's a wrong minhag, that it's not acceptable, it's wrong, it should not be done this custom of making a whole celebration when the lady goes to the mikveh before the marriage. I wanted to say it's not so fast to say that, because most probably the reason behind the minhag was, I would speculate, that they wanted it to be a joyous thing. They wanted it to be that going to the mikveh for the woman was something special, something unique. And by celebrating would ensure that they would go to the mikveh, because if someone's not celebrating going, that means they're not going. So perhaps they wanted to also, they're gonna have the mitzvah Tairat HaMishpacha. They wanted to start off with a bang, with a happiness. Just like that's why it's brought down a marriage. Why do you have 7 days of simcha, mishteh, when you get married? The 7 days of happy times, 7 days of festivities, and also at a bar mitzvah. I saw Rav David Kviat from the Meir Yeshiva, my rabbi of blessed memory, wrote, when a person has a bar mitzvah, you make a very nice in honor of the bar mitzvah. Why? You want to connect that he should look at the mindset, the attitude of becoming bar mitzvah. You're getting mitzvot, obligated mitzvahs. It should be something pleasant, something happy, something you look at in a very positive way. So therefore you celebrate it. Marriage also. You have 7 days of celebration. You got married. It's something to be so happy about. It's not like the terrible liberal ideas of that knocks marriage and doesn't appreciate marriage. Something beautiful. You have to celebrate. So I want to say perhaps that's the same thing. And it's not always, hasn't been always so easy for the women to go to the mikveh. Not all the mikvos historically have been the most beautiful. Not all the mikvos are across the street, and sometimes you had to make an effort to go to the mikveh. So perhaps they wanted to start it off with a bang, with a celebration. So, and the rabbis might have felt that being that this is the standard that it's always done before marriage, they might not have felt that it's a lack of tzniut. Everybody knows the lady's going to the mikveh before the marriage. So maybe the rabbis in the Moroccan community that had, or those that have that, felt that, you know what, it's more important to celebrate this and to give it and to ensure that the women will have the proper attitude to go to the mikveh and to go to the mikveh, than the concern that maybe it's not modest that we're celebrating such a thing. I'm suggesting that, right? That's what I would. Right? That's you know.
Community, Brazilian community, is now very much a celebration that before
she goes to the mikveh, before the wedding. Okay, that's okay. Okay, we have someone trying to join into the meeting. Okay. Okay, so continuing the Gemara. Now talking about a wedding, now look at this interesting custom that they had. Tana Rabbanan. Good morning, Shmuel. Welcome to town. Tana Rabbanan. Mamshichin b'tzinorot lifnei chasam v'kala. You go ahead and you could pour wine. What they would do is, in front of the chatan and kala, there's a mitzvah of sameach chatan v'kala. It's a mitzvah to make the chassan, the groom and the bride happy. It's a special mitzvah. The Sefer Chafetz Chaim wrote a sefer called Avat Chesed, and he talks about the great mitzvah of making a husband and wife, and they get married. The first 7 days is a special mitzvah. When you go to a wedding, when you go to a Sheva Brachot, you're making them happy. And if you say something positive about them, also it makes them very happy. So what they did was, for a siman tov, they would take wine. They would make like a pipe of wine, like a little pipe, and they would pour the wine through the pipe. And the way Rashi, or some of the commentaries, Rashi says that they would have on the other end of the pipe, you would have, let's say, a pitcher, a barrel to catch the wine. And the idea of this was for a siman tov, that they should have that their life should continue in peace. They should have peace in their life, and therefore they would see you think that maybe wine maybe is a sign of bracha. It should be flowing with wine. But I saw the Aruch HaShulchan The Aruch HaShulchan says that it had to do with peace, with Shalom Bayit. He says in Kuf Ayin Aleph, is the following. What was behind this this minhag of the wine? He says, let's see what he says. He says that was the minhag. They do this for Siman Tov, that their peace and their tranquility that the husband and the wife have should be continuous. It should continue. Similar to the wine flowing. It should flow. It should continue to flow in their life, throughout their life. And that's what they did it for a Siman Tov. They did this. Now, there are commentators that learn that the wine actually was not poured on the other side. And because it was for the purpose of Chassan v'Kala, they didn't consider it wasting because it was serving a purpose. But Rashi does not feel this is sufficient purpose to just waste it, and therefore there was something on the other side that caught the wine. And also they threw to the Chassan v'Kala kloyot. They would throw, let's say, roasted wheat kernels, ve'egozim, and they would throw nuts. One of the ideas is and even today, this is talking about a chatan and a kala, that means they're already married. But today, by Ashkenazim, on the Shabbat before the wedding, they have something they call an ufruf, which means they get an aliyah, the Shabbat before the wedding, and they make bags of food, and they throw at the chatan, they throw sweets. And one of the ideas is they throw at the chatan that he should have a sweet life. They throw sweets. But the Gemara says, yeah, it depends.
What do you want?
What type of food you're going to throw to the chatan? Because if you're going to throw, I say you should not have raisins in the bag. Because if you have raisins in the bag, it falls on the floor, it gets ruined. People will step on it. When you throw at the chatan and the kala food, you throw something that's in a wrapper, candy in a wrapper, or anything that if it would fall on the floor, it won't get ruined. That's the appropriate thing to throw at the chatan and kala. And the Gemara says, look at the Gemara says, they would throw these things at the chatan and kala in the summertime, because the summertime it's very dry. The area, let's say the chatan and the kala walking in the street, and you would throw these things at them. It's symbolic of you should always be thrown with blessings and sweet things. But if the floor is dry, like in the summertime, fine. Because if it falls on the floor, then you'll pick it up and it's no problem. But of a low biyamotak shamim, but you would not be able to throw these things at the chatan and the kala during the winter months, the rainy season, because it's going to get muddy and the food will get ruined. So therefore you cannot throw it at the chatan and the kala during these type of foods that will get ruined if it falls on the floor. Of a low goose coat, but you're not allowed to throw bread, a loaf of bread at the chatan and the kala, lo biyamot hachama, lo biyamot shamim. Whether it's the summer or the winter, even in the summer, where if it would fall on the floor, it will not get ruined, you can't throw it. And that's based on the Gemara we had before. Our Gemara we said before is you can't throw bread. It doesn't make a difference whether the bread is going to get ruined or even if it's not going to get ruined. Bread is a different category. And therefore, that's how you could learn the reason why you can't throw the bread. Okay, we should learn from here the sensitivity in foods, how we treat foods with derech eretz, not to waste foods. We learn out the points of making a chassan a kala happy and going out of our way. It's called a chesed. It's a big mitzvah, and there's a lot of things that we could learn. And the minhagim of Jewish people are beautiful. Have a great day. 6:45. I want to give it a little run. We'll be back at 6:45, and we'll assess it. Yeah, 6:45. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day.
Everybody, have a great day. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.